Somewhere along the road, life started to blur. The mornings came faster, the days got louder, and the quiet moments, the ones that used to mean something, slowly disappeared. I remember sitting in traffic one evening, headlights stretching into the horizon, and wondering when I last watched the sunset without checking the time. Somewhere between chasing plans and fixing things, I forgot how to simply be. But as the years passed, life began to whisper again. In the stillness of early mornings, with coffee warming my hands, I started to notice the soft rhythm of time, the way light spills gently through the curtains, the way a bird pauses before taking flight. I realized that time isn't meant to be conquered or managed. It's meant to be felt. When we slow down, the world stops rushing past us. The noise fades, and what's left is something quiet, honest, and profoundly beautiful. Maybe that's what we were all searching for. Not more days, but deeper ones. Moments that breathe. Moments that remind us we're still here. For most of my life, I was running. Not on a track, but through the endless maze of work, goals, and plans. Always believing that if I just did a little more, earned a little more, achieved a little more, I'd finally be happy. Mornings blurred into nights, weeks into years, and though I kept moving faster, peace kept moving farther away. One quiet Sunday, I finally stopped. The house was still, sunlight spilling across the floor, dust floating like tiny stars. I looked around, piles of papers, clothes I didn't wear, gadgets I barely touched. But what truly struck me wasn't the mess on my shelves, it was the heaviness inside my chest. My heart, too, was cluttered, filled with old worries, unfinished dreams, and noise that never stopped. So I began with one small thing, clearing a drawer, then a corner, then a thought. Each item I let go of felt like a breath released, a weight I didn't realize I was carrying. Slowly, the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt kind. I started to see that peace was never something to chase. It was something that quietly waited, underneath all the noise, for me to slow down long enough to notice it. Now, my life isn't perfect, but it's gentler. I make tea, sit by the window, and breathe. And in those still moments, I finally understand. Happiness was never in the next thing. It was right here, in the calm I'd been running past all along. I started with the simplest place I knew, my home. One quiet afternoon, I stood in the middle of my living room, surrounded by things I once thought I needed. Books I never read, mugs from trips I barely remembered, drawers full of just in case. It all told a story, not of who I was, but of how afraid I'd been to let go. So I began small. One shelf, one drawer, one honest question at a time. Does this bring me peace? Some days the answer came easy. Other days it hurt, like saying goodbye to a version of myself I no longer needed to carry. But each object I released left a quiet space behind, and in that space, I could finally breathe again. It wasn't about owning nothing. It was about owning my life, my time, my calm, my energy. Slowly, my home began to feel lighter, and so did I. Morning light touched the bare wooden table. The air felt softer, and silence no longer seemed empty. It felt full of presence, of gratitude, of peace. Now when I walk through my home, I don't see what's missing. I see what matters. The cup I drink from every morning, the chair by the window where I rest, the small signs of a life lived gently, on purpose. Sometimes peace doesn't come from doing more, but from making room to finally come home to yourself. I remember the day I started letting go. Not all at once, just a drawer here, a corner there, old papers, clothes that didn't quite feel like me anymore. Little reminders of who I thought I had to be. At first, it felt like I was just clearing space in my home. But slowly, I realized something deeper was happening. My heart was getting lighter too. You see, the real clutter wasn't the things I could touch. It was the weight I carried inside, the old regrets that whispered at night, the expectations that told me I wasn't doing enough, the quiet pressure to always stay busy, as if stillness was something to be ashamed of. I had mistaken movement for meaning. Then one morning, I sat with a cup of coffee and watched the light move across the floor. For the first time in a long time, I didn't reach for my phone. I just breathed. And in that quiet, I understood. Peace doesn't arrive with a grand announcement. It comes in small choices, repeated each day. Letting go isn't about losing. It's about making room for calm, for clarity, for yourself. When your home becomes lighter, your soul follows. Every drawer you clear, every expectation you release, every breath you take in stillness, it's all part of finding your way back home, not to a place, but to peace. I used to wake up already feeling behind, chasing the clock, rushing through mornings that disappeared before I could even taste my coffee. I told myself I just needed more time, more hours in the day. But time was never the problem. My pace was. One quiet morning, I decided to do something different. I sat by the window instead of checking my phone. The light was soft, golden, and still. I noticed the way it touched the steam rising from my cup. For the first time in a long while, I just breathed. No goals, no list, no guilt. And something shifted. Minutes stretched wider, as if life had been waiting for me to slow down long enough to notice it. The sound of the birds outside didn't feel like background noise anymore. It felt like music. My thoughts, once tangled and loud, began to settle. When I slowed my steps, I started to see things I'd been too busy to feel. The gentle weight of a quiet moment. The peace in doing one thing at a time. The grace in being instead of becoming. Time didn't change. My calendar didn't clear itself. But life felt softer, kinder. Somehow I found more of everything I've been missing. Not by speeding up, but by letting go. Maybe we don't need more time. Maybe we just need to stop running long enough to live the moment we're already in. There was a time when I rushed through everything. Dishes, laundry, even watering the plants. Every task felt like something to get done, not something to live through. But one quiet morning, standing by the sink with warm water running over my hands, I noticed how the sunlight danced across the soap bubbles. The world seemed to pause. For the first time in a long while, I did too. That moment changed something in me. I started to realize that the simplest routines, the ones I used to hurry past, could be small acts of peace. Washing dishes became a rhythm, a gentle meditation. Folding laundry wasn't a chore anymore. It was a way to feel grateful for the life those clothes had carried through. Even watering the plants turned into a quiet conversation with something alive and growing. When you slow down and do things consciously, life stops slipping by unnoticed. Each motion, each sound, each breath becomes a reminder that you're here, alive, capable, and connected to something larger than the noise. We spend so much of our lives chasing meaning, not realizing it's already waiting for us in the warmth of the water, the scent of clean cotton, the cool touch of soil. Sometimes peace doesn't arrive with big changes or grand gestures. Sometimes it's right there, in the simplest routines that gently bring you back home to yourself. When I was younger, I thought luxury meant having more. A bigger house, shinier things, a schedule so full it made me feel important. I chased that version of success for years, always reaching for the next upgrade, the next goal. But somewhere along the way, I started to notice how empty it all felt. How the more I had, the less space there was to simply be. These days, I find myself drawn to slower mornings. The sound of the coffee maker instead of the buzz of notifications. The way sunlight slips through the curtains and lands softly on the kitchen table. No rush, no performance, just me. Breathing, noticing, existing. I used to think peace was something I'd earn once I figured it all out. But it's not a destination, it's a moment. A quiet walk at dusk, the smell of rain, the warmth of holding someone's hand without saying a word. As I get older, I realize the real luxury isn't in owning things. It's in presence. It's being fully here, even for a heartbeat, even when life feels imperfect. Maybe that's what we've all been searching for all along. Not more, but enough. Enough stillness to hear our own breath. Enough grace to just be where we are, right now. Because this moment is the truest form of wealth we'll ever know. I used to think slowing down meant falling behind. The world kept spinning faster. Emails, deadlines, endless noise. And I thought if I just kept moving, I'd catch up somehow. But one morning, sitting by the kitchen window with a cup of coffee gone cold, I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually felt the day. The light on the trees, the quiet hum of the fridge, even the sound of my own breath, it all had become background static. That's when I began to understand. Slow living isn't about doing less. It's about doing what matters with your whole heart. It's washing the dishes and really feeling the warm water. It's calling your sister just to hear her laugh. It's letting the afternoon sun touch your face and not reaching for your phone. When you live that way, time changes. It stops being this thing you're always losing. It becomes something you're rediscovering, one honest moment at a time. You start to notice how morning light feels different from evening light. You start to breathe deeper. And in that space between doing and being, you find something you thought you'd lost long ago: peace. The truth is, life was never asking us to run faster. It was just whispering, quietly, for us to come back home. There was a time when life moved slower. You could feel the wind through an open window, smell the rain before it came, and actually hear your own heartbeat. Somewhere along the way, we traded that quiet for noise, for schedules, screens, and the endless chase to keep up. But maybe we don't have to. Here at Simple Earth Studio, we choose to slow down again, to breathe, to notice how sunlight touches an old wooden table, how a single cup of tea can calm a racing mind, how silence, real silence, can hold more meaning than 1,000 words. If this journey touches something in you, stay a while. Subscribe not for more content, but for more presence. Together, we can rediscover what time truly feels like when it's not rushing past us. The quiet beauty is still here, waiting. All we have to do is stop long enough to see it.